So did you have a phase? It's interesting that you mentioned golfing. I've only done putt-putt, but uh, from what I glean from other people that do it, it seems like that there's some similarities between golfing and archery, in that it's like this thing you're always trying to perfect, and there's all these little things that you are always kind of cross-examining and figuring, oh well, why did that go wrong, and what I can do to fix this. Do I need a different this or that?
Mm-hmm.
Was there a point, I know you started later, but that you hit like kind of a plateau or some type of challenge in your archery where either you weren't getting better or you got significantly worse or something like that you
Yeah,
had
you'd
to...
have off days, where you couldn't do anything right, and then what I found helped me was to get kind of a mantra. I would think iron bar for my holding my arm out. Don't move. It's hard. There's no wobble in it. It's hard. And anchor tight. Get your anchor all the way back. Anchor tight. Squeeze your back muscles, and then find your aim and slow release. So those steps, and I would count. And on the release, I would count to 2. When I was ready to release, I'd go 1, 2. Because if you think I'm ready to release and you release, it throws you off.
Yeah, give yourself a little timer.
Yep, and make that slow release.
Okay.
The same in golf. Your backswing needs to be slow. If you whip that club, it screws you all up.
That makes sense.
It throws you out of place. I mean, you don't have to be out of place much. A little bit, and you miss that little bitty ball.
Yeah.
So that ball has to be hit in the exact center of the club to get a good shot. Anything off, it's not as good a shot.
Yeah, you don't need that energy for the pullback. You need that for the come around.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the pullback, you just want to do it nice and slow. Get your position without throwing yourself out of whack. And kind of the same with your release on archery.
Okay. So did you ever go back to compound after you switched over?
I haven't. I've got 2 of them, and they've been in the case for 10 years now. The old one, I got out and shot it a little bit without sights, just to play with it. But only one time. I never shot them since.
Okay, so a couple more questions. So if there was someone that's never shot a bow, and I don't know if this would break it down into 2 different questions. Maybe they have a passing interest, like they, seen archery in a movie or a video game or something, and they think it's cool, or someone that just never even thought about it. Is there something that you would try and pitch to them of why you love archery so much, or like what you get out of it?
I don't think so necessarily. It's more or less you let them try it, and if they throw their first arrow dead center like some people do, they want to keep doing it, and then you just start coaching them a little, and if you take them to the shoots where they can go around the courses and everything and meet a lot of nice people. I mean, you go to these archery shoots, traditional archery shoots, and you won't find anybody that doesn't treat you well.
That's very true.
And it doesn't matter, black, white, red. Everybody just is nice people. I've never seen any kind of groups like that has so many just nice people.
Yeah, it's a great community.
It is, and everybody just really enjoys it and enjoys seeing other people enjoy it. And of course, they eat lots of food and sit around the campfire and play guitars. And
so what kept you coming back personally?
I just enjoyed the challenge of trying to improve.
Yeah.
Pretty much, and I don't know. I always just thought archery was cool.
Yeah, it could be that simple.
But to improve, though, you just have to shoot a lot, and you have to, like you say, consider what is causing this and what's causing that. And I struggled for a long time with, I'd shoot pretty good, and all of a sudden I'd have one arrow just go nuts, and I'd miss like by 3 foot at 20 yards, and I'd miss the whole target. What's causing that? And I finally realized it was the finger pinch on top of the arrow with the bowstring. The glove I was wearing would snag too much in there when I released, and I didn't really feel it, but it was making that arrow jump up off the rest a little bit. Right when I was releasing, that pinch would tweak and that arrow would come up off the rest, and you'd think it'd go left, but it would go and go right.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because on some of the ones that I was shooting, that was the phenomena that I was feeling, but I was attributing it just to, I did something poor with my finger form or something, but I didn't consider maybe my glove is too loose, or like it's an old one. So
what I found helped that, or eliminated it, was when I'd get to my full draw, when I'm counting to 2, I'd get that finger out of the string and release with the bottom 2.
it felt to me like my middle finger was the one that was catching.
Was it?
Maybe I'm just like, I bet if I looked at it, that the majority of the weight that on my pull, like maybe these ones are on the tip and the middle ones has a little bit more meat of the string than it should.
Could be.
I'll have to focus on that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, that made a huge difference. Especially, well, what I was doing was trying to shoot that 50, 60 yard stuff.
Yeah.
And at that distance, if you do any little thing, it really shows up on where your arrow is.
Oh yeah, because you got more room to mosey.
Oh man. So if you're just a little bit off at 20 yards, you're just a little bit off. But at 60 yards, that's magnified,
So, is there any other like game changer, like little technique things that you picked up like that helped you?
Well, just the idea of using some back muscle, squeezing your shoulder blades together. That takes some of the strain off your arm by putting it back there, and then you're not so likely to muscle react with your arm when you release.
Right.
So the 2 biggest things is your steady hold and your steady release, because that's what launches that arrow.
Yep.
So if you can get those down, then you can start working on precision.
Nice.
Yeah, that finger pinch was killing me until I figured out what it was, and that was a game changer right there.
Nice.
Yeah. And I didn't really feel it, but I could tell when I'd start to release, that arrow would jump up off the rest before I released.
I guess to wrap things up, seeing as how you literally, you're giving to me one of your first longbow, and it's like you're passing on the torch, so to speak, of the next generation of shooters. And I'm wondering, is there any kind of ethos, or like is there something beyond just, I don't know, maybe it's just enough to be like, as long as people are still shooting bows.
If you enjoy it, do it. Shoot a lot. Get out there and shoot, and you will improve. If that's what you're looking for, and that's what I wanted to do, was improve on my consistency and be able to hunt and ethically. And like you say, get out in nature. I'll sit in a tree all day long. I just love it. So it just depends on how you're wound, I guess.
Yeah, that's something that I've really grown to appreciate, is that like people have different priorities. I know everyone, like, they want to hit bullseyes consistently, and especially if like you're oriented towards hunting, that kind of puts everything else on it. The fun is kind of like the tertiary benefit. For me, I was kind of more like fun first, and if I get a bullseye, I'd be overjoyed. and I'm trying to meet more in the middle. But I love that people have different styles and I guess things that attract them are different, even though we're all doing the same thing on the surface. I think people have different things that they value. Well, thank you for your time, Ben.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's an honor. I mean, for someone that's been shooting for such a long time, and to get pointers and just kind of get some of your pearls of wisdom. I'm gonna go back and look at some of that stuff, because at least 2 of those game changers I think could resonate with me.
Another thing, I read Jerry Hill's book on how to shoot, and there were little helpful things in there. And like you say, I read Byron Ferguson stuff, and there's a Clay Hayes is on YouTube a lot, and he's got some books out.
Okay.
And there's just a lot of stuff that's makes a lot of sense, but it's not really that deep, but it makes you think about it, and you can improve.
Yeah, I think the Byron book that I had was Become the Arrow.
Become the Arrow, yeah.
Yeah. I got to review all my textbooks on that.
I got to look at that again, because I never really understood what exactly he meant by become the arrow.
I think, I need to review it too. I would imagine it's like, and the helpful thing about it is, like, to me it just comes back to everything is lines. Like, if you're trying to get this sort of linear object from point A to point B, then the front part of it and the back part of it got to be in alignment, and you want to not mess with that as much as possible as going through, and eliminate all the things that are, wobbling this way or that way. And if you're thinking about becoming the arrow, that really becomes prominent. Like, I want to travel. You're almost astral projecting yourself, but it is kind of trippy. I don't think I've ever been able to achieve it while I've been shooting. Be like, become the arrow, yeah.
They in golf they tell you to visualize the shot, and I can visualize exactly where I want it to go, but that don't make it go there.
I think there's something to be said both for the mantra. I've started to try and develop my own mantra that similar, like 3-part structure that you're talking about, but I think it's helpful for me, because I think almost all the way up to this point, that's not true. When I first started, I really didn't care. I was just like trying to find the most difficult ways to make my life harder and like make obstacles for myself, and then I was like, okay, I really need to get my accuracy in check, because it's like when you're it's only if you're, especially with your other people, if you're by yourself doing it, it's fine, no one really cares. But if you're shooting wildly in front of other people that are doing the other thing, it's not very cool. And so then I'm like, okay, I need to get a dozen arrows that are all the same, and I need to like get on my anchor and all this.
I pretty much don't shoot the wooden arrows much, especially in any kind of competition or anything. I'll just use carbons.
Yeah, for the consistency.
And besides, I want some really light ones for the 60 yards.
Right.
So I get these little skinny carbons. And
nice.
they don't drop a lot,
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
The first couple of years I shot that, I had just regular cheap carbons, but I was shooting a 65-pound bow, and nobody else was shooting 90 arrows with a 65-pound bow.
Yeah.
Then when I started blowing my shoulder, I had to have the rotator cuff reattached, but before that, I just started getting weaker. I think it was when I turned 70.
Well, if you're starting when you're 66 on a 65-pound bow, that's pretty impressive. Yeah. I forget where I was.
Well, my compounds always took 70 pounds to break over,
Yeah, so you already had that, and you were a dang firefighter.
Before I was a firefighter, I built tires at Goodyear, semi-truck tires that weighed 110 pounds apiece.
Okay.
And before that, when I was a kid, I lived on a farm, baled hay, and shoveled manure and whatever.
All right, well, that'll get you there.
So I always worked hard. I was always plenty strong.
Yeah, I think the thing I was thinking of with the mantra is that once I started getting concerned about accuracy, I got way more self-conscious because I'm like, okay, I'm doing something that's not my usual prerogative, and so I kept micromanaging all the things like, you know, don't do this, focus on this, and my mind was just a mess. And so breaking it down, and I think I forget who was talking about it. It was on some interview with an archer that had a mantra method, but also he was just talking about the importance of, you have to, even if it's somewhat placebo, you want to be training enough that your skill is in alignment with your confidence level, but it
Right.
doesn't help you even if there's some merit to being insecure about your shot. If you're insecure about your shot, then your shot's going to be bad because you're focused too much on all the inadequacies, whereas if you at least assume, like, have a little bit of lean forward in your shot and think with a mentality of like, I'm here to, hit this really small point and I'm going to do it. Even if you're not, you're going to have a way better chance than if you're
Yeah.
second guessing yourself the whole time.
Yeah. Same with putting a golf ball. You think this is easy. I'm going to make this. 9 times out of 10 you will, but think, oh, I'm going to miss this. You miss it every time.
Yeah, your brain's like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
That's a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah. 2 years ago there, the last time I won the American round, I was out here practicing in March with a coat on, and I'd shoot the 90 arrow course twice a day. Shoot it in the morning, I'd shoot it in the afternoon, evening, later in the day,
Mm-hmm.
And that was, then I'd shoot a warm up round, so I was shooting 100 arrows morning, 100 in the evening.
Oh, hell yeah.
I got really steady. And
I've got to do that.
That year I shot a 562.
Out of,
well,
like,
810 would be a perfect score, all nines.
wow.
But 562 is the highest anybody's ever scored on that.
Nice.
I think 530 something was the record I broke.
Okay, so now you make
But
me.
that was from a lot of shooting. So
You just answered my question.
My strength was up. My confidence was up because I hit over 600 out here.
Oh yeah,
But
so you can. That makes
you
so
do it.
much sense. All the top performers. I was just watching. You ever see the movie about free climbing? It's called Solo.
I've seen it advertised, but I never watched the whole movie.
Man, anyone that enjoys nature would love it. Personally, I'm scared of heights, so it really struck me as like watching a horror movie. That he's climbing the sheer face of Yosemite with no harnesses. He's just with his hands and his feet going up 2,000 feet.
That never intrigued me either.
You should watch it though, because it's great. But yeah,
There's a bear out there.
Is that your cat?
No, I don't have a cat. My neighbor's got them. They roam all over the place.
But yeah, like, there's no substitute for just putting in the time. Because when he was talking about, like, the kind of schedule he had and, like, how you're able to achieve this is, like, he's 6 days a week, maybe 1 day recovering, and he's out there all day doing crazy stuff. And, yeah, it makes sense. That I always tell people when I'm apologizing for myself, it's like, there's no reason I should be shooting incredibly accurately because I'm not out there putting in the work enough.
Yeah, if you don't.
But the same thing with the kids. It's hard to do.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now I didn't do it till after I retired. See,
Mm.
I got all day long. I get the grass mowed a couple times a week, and other than that,
I can't wait.
Time.
Yeah, so you would say as advice to someone that's like competition or tournament in terms of if someone's like, because I feel like pressure is a whole new element. It's one thing when you're practicing, but when you're with other people and it's the final round and, of course you would like to get the gold even though it's friendly competition. It's just a matter of like, well, I've been out here doing it, just practice like you, or perform like you practice, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and you, with all that shooting, your muscles strengthen and just everything about it is easier, And you also figure out some things that are a little haywire, like I was telling with the finger pinching in there and getting a little bit caught and throwing me off.
Scientific method.
Well, yeah, I just do it, and something's throwing me off. What the heck is it? And finally dawned on me. But so you need to practice a lot, but also I need to have specific practice at a specific goal when you're, like you're working on left and right or something. If you're having trouble staying that way and up and down, that when you get way out there, you have to use a little more gapping.
Yeah.
That year that I did well, I fiddled with my bracing and the arrows and the weight, the tip weight, and the knock height and everything, and I got where when I was full drawn, right like I needed to be, at 50 yards, my arrow point was right on the yellow.
Yeah.
And so I was singing them in there quite easily by having that arrow point float right into this, right where I'm looking.
Yeah.
And then
for
40 yards, I'd drop it down just 2 stripes on the thing, and for 60 yards, it's up 2. And unless I twitched and went sideways,
yeah, I
was on the nuts.
That's awesome.
Then the next year, I couldn't get that 50-yard thing to work at all. But that was when my shoulder was going back.
I normally associate gap shooting with 3 under. You do split finger though, right?
As long as it was 3 under, and the arrow's up close to your eye and everything, and your gap is a lot less at, say, 20, 30 yards. But the further back you go, the higher that arrow tip moves, you got to put it above the target, and then you can't see the target. So with split finger, you can anchor way down here, because that arrow's got to go up when it comes out of the bow, and then the arrow tip is where it needs to be. Like for one year, I was anchoring way down here for 60 yards.
Okay.
But it's really screws you up to try to change anchors.
I would feel like, yeah.
So you think you got one anchor at 60 and one anchor at 50 and one anchor at 40. You're going to screw up royal. You cannot keep it in your head. You can hear by yourself, but when you get into a group all shooting, and pretty soon you don't know where the hell you're anchoring or anything. So I just use the same, and probably I think there was no option, but in some competitions you can't. That's called face walking.
Yeah.
And you can't do that. You got to have the same anchor all the
time.
Oh,
they have rules for that?
Oh, yeah. They got rules for everything.
Yeah, there was...
People figure out a way that, is a little bit of a fudge.
I feel like that I experienced that I mean, I could tell they were doing something, because there was a guy that had 3 under, and it was not only was 3 under, but there was the arrow wasn't touching his fingers at all.
String walking.
Yeah, and he was hitting bullseyes like money.
Oh, and they got a tab that's got marks on it, and they set those marks on the string
for yardage.
Yeah, and they know exactly where that's going to hit. And they're so precise. And there are some competitions that allow that.
Yeah.
And some don't. It depends on which competition you're in, but
I mean, a part of me was like, if it's working this good, I want to try and figure it out. But again, going back to the priorities thing, you have to do what, I don't know. For me, I prefer to do something that feels natural, and that always struck me as really strange. But it's effective, and he had a really light bow too.
And for some kind of target competition, the ones where it's allowed, it works great, and that's what you do. But you're not going to go out deer hunting and count strings and fiddle faddle. Let's see, that deer's 22 and a half yards. Count the string.
Yeah.
The deer's gone now.
That's great. Well, the sun's going down. I've got a bit of man. Great. This is awesome.
Talking to you.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Glad we connected on Facebook there and stayed in touch.
Yeah. Let me know if and